Here's why you have to be extra careful with the people you're calling your friends. In Lusaka, there was a young man named Muaz, and at a school called Alpha School in Makeni, Muaz met a friend called Charles Nyirongo. And since Muaz knew Charles from school, he did not know Charles's personal private life. It turns out Charles was a completely crazy psychopath with a history of murder, but Muaz had no idea about any of that. In fact, Charles was acting like he really likes Muaz, because he just wanted to be a friend with benefit towards Muaz as a wolf in sheep's skin. On the other hand, Muaz really liked his friend Charles Nyirongo. Every time that Muaz's family was hosting a party or any other program, they made sure that they invited Charles over to come and attend their program for free. And Charles would spend as much time that he decided to spend at Muaz's place, enjoying their warmth. They basically welcomed him like he's part of the family, and Muaz was very generous and kind towards Charles. Every time that Charles asked for anything, including money from Muaz, Muaz always gave everything that Charles was asking for. As long as Muaz has it, he always shares with Charles. In fact, one day Charles asked if he can borrow a 20,000 kwacha from Muaz, and he said he's going to repay this back in pay slow over a really long period of time. Without any hesitation, Muaz sacrificed his 20,000 kwacha and gave it to Charles. He was paying back very slow, looking like he's failing. Now, Charles knew that Muaz has laptops and phones that he was selling, and so Charles made a deal with Muaz, telling him that, hey Muaz, if I look for a customer that will buy your laptops and phones at a very high price that will give you an extremely big profit, can you reduce some of the credit that I owe you from the 20,000 kwacha? And Muaz accepted it. Yeah, if you look for a customer, I'll definitely reduce your credit. So on the 6th of July 2016, Muaz and Charles got Muaz's phones and laptops, put them into his vehicle, and they drove off going to meet the buyer for the items. On their way out, they even waved goodbye to Hassan, who is Muaz's brother. And just like that, Muaz went out entrusting the Black El Chapo Guzman. After they went out, hours passed. It was now becoming very dark at night. Muaz had not returned back home, and this was so unusual of Muaz. He had stayed late without notifying anyone the reason why he's staying late, and so Hassan thought of calling his brother just to find out why he's staying late. But Muaz's phone was not going through, and this was now becoming extremely odd. Muaz's phone off, and he was not home late at night. Something is wrong. They immediately began calling Charles and other people who they thought Muaz would be with them, but everyone else said they did not know where Muaz was. They failed to get in touch with Charles. His phone was ringing, then it went off. In the same night, Muaz's family went to report Muaz missing at the police, and from the police, they did not go back home to sleep. They went into the dark night of the streets of Lusaka, searching for Muaz, trying to find anything that will lead them towards finding Muaz. But they searched for hours during the entire sleepless night. They still had no clue where Muaz was, and all this while they were still trying to reach Charles, yet they were unable to reach him. When the night was turning morning, the sun was about to rise up, they went back home after getting just a short time of rest. Early in the morning, Hassan and the family went to assist the police in searching for Muaz. But still their search was to no avail until on the 18th of July 2016, some people at Lusaka National Park found an unidentified, partially burnt out dead body, and this dead body was took to University Teaching Hospital mortuaries. It was in the mortuaries when Muaz's family finally discovered him, found his dead body was partially burnt. All this while, they were still unable to get in touch with Charles, and immediately their search effort changed from looking for Muaz. They began looking for Charles because they wanted to find out what happened to Muaz. They searched for him everywhere, at his home, at his relatives, still was nowhere to be seen, until they finally found him at Intercity bus station. Charles was with another person in the bus. They were already seated in a bus that was going to South Africa, and they were holding on to tickets that was going to take them to South Africa. Immediately, Charles with his friend, they were put into police's custody so that they explained. They were the last people to be seen with Muaz when he was alive. And after a long interrogation with Charles, they found Muaz's car, laptops, phones, and other stolen expensive items. They were with Charles and his accomplice. Charles confessed the entire story, what happened to Muaz. Here's what he said. On the day when they went to sell Muaz's phones and laptops, they reached at Charles's place. Charles got a Fanta which had poison in it. Then he gave it to Muaz, telling him that, hey, it's scorching hot and I would like you to chill down by drinking this Fanta. Muaz got the Fanta, but before he would even drink a single sip from the Fanta, just putting the drink in his mouth, he already began nauseating and vomiting. They realized that Muaz is now suspecting them of having sinister plans against him, and so he was getting into this defensive position. Immediately, Charles got a rope and jumped towards Muaz and tied a rope around his neck. Muaz did not expect any of this. Now he's having a rope around his neck from his friend, and as Charles was tying the rope around Muaz's neck, his accomplice was also holding Muaz's hands so that he does not refrain from having Charles strangle him. These two managed to pin down Muaz, strangled him until he stopped breathing and he died. Now, since they murdered him during the day, he failed to go and dump his dead body, so they kept his body at Charles's house, waited for the night to come, and around midnight, Charles, together with his accomplice, and they drove his dead body to Lusaka National Park, where they would later dump it. But on their way to Lusaka National Park, Hassan and the family, they were actually searching for Muaz, and they were calling Charles, trying to ask him where Muaz was. Charles was with Muaz, but Muaz was just dead. Charles and his accomplice drove Muaz's dead body to Lusaka National Park, and at the fringes of the park, they dumped his dead body, poured some inflammable fluid on him, and got into his vehicle, driving off. Charles was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole, but Charles's accomplice was served with a lesser sentence, and after just serving a short time in prison, he was already released. Now this guy committed another different crime, and in this crime he got lucky. The C5 shot and killed him.